Okay. How long has it been, guys, since we've been on the Lakers mixtape on Dash, which will also play on demand on Lakers Nation Film? Like,
it feels like forever.
2019 September.
It's been too long. I really miss talking about the Lakers with you guys, honestly. So
yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, we fell out of place. Let's explain it to the listening audience. I'll explain it for like 30 seconds. Dash Studios closed, right, guys? End of September, or was it end of August? I don't even remember. I want to say
I think it was August.
End of August. So they opened up in March. And guess what happened in March? Fucking the pandemic. So
oh my gosh.
We're just going to go ahead and do this and kill two birds with one stone. It's going to be played on Dash Radio under the Beat Junkie radio channel. And then it's going to be, we're going to provide on-demand links on Plug 12 and Lakers Nation Philippines just to further confuse you guys. Mm-hmm. Who's listening? Yeah, so guys, this is where we're at right now. Before the All-Star break, so we have us three, we have to refresh our memories. Before the All-Star break, we lost to the Celtics, we lost to the Bucks, we lost to the Clippers. We were beating like second-tier teams, like Utah, the COVID Utah team. The Denver Nuggets and a lot of other good teams, right? We even lost to Philly. How are you guys feeling about the first half Lakers? And whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Well, the first half Lakers, to me, they're just the first half Lakers. It's hard for me to put a lot of, merit into that part of the season, only because right before the All-Star break, especially, that's around time, it's around the time Christmas just happened and the year is just starting. A lot of players are kind of getting into that grind to where they're like, okay, we're getting a little tired of this. And it's almost widely accepted that there's a lot of fans out there who don't even start following the game until after the All-Star break. So what I was looking for at that point before the All-Star break was how they played in moments to where to see like what they're capable of as opposed to what the results of their game was. So I hated losing to Boston as a Laker fan because, I hate Boston. But it didn't really, I mean, they got work too. If I recall, they lost by like 30 plus points, right?
Yep.
Or something.
It was a bad loss.
But
it was like really 139 to 107.
Oh my gosh. So that hurt. I had to turn that game off, I remember. But I kept telling myself it is before the All-Star break, and maybe that's an excuse, but that's just how it's been over the years of the time.
Do you know?
So.
Mm-hmm. First half of the season, I felt that Lakers were a playoff team, but I didn't. From what I saw in the first half, I didn't think they were poised to win a championship. And just because the way the team was, and with so many people getting hurt, and the lineup just kept on changing, so I was like, that whole first half, it felt like they spent the whole first half trying to figure out what lineup there was. And for me as a fan, I couldn't figure out, well, who's going to be that starting five, who's going to be in that last starting five in the fourth quarter. So for me, I wasn't convinced in that first half as of yet.
I was occasionally cool. I want to say 40% cool, 60% aggravated against the Clippers. Because if you play that good and you put that much effort, you might as well win. You know what I mean? You're already right there. You might as well win. We could have won the first game, but you know what? Okay, first game, rust. Whatever the fuck you want to call it. Fine. Christmas game, we still could have won that. And I was like, you know what? Dude, I'm trying to be cool because we're the hosts, right? So with emotion right now, I feel like I'm going to burst my veins in my neck. It's just a case of like, dude, which LA are you, dude? Because they're already putting up these billboards and they're trying to shit all over you that like you're Hollywood and we're like the real folks. And it's like with Mr. Cartoon, I do believe Mr. Cartoons was the one who helped design the jerseys. I was like, that's pretty LA. But I still felt like Lakers were the kings. Now with the Bucks and Boston, ironically, I wasn't as stressed because I felt like, you know what? There's always playing at our court. But with the Clippers, I was just like, there's no home court. As a matter of fact, even when that hardwood floor is painted Clippers, you could still feel a domination of fans, at least maybe 65-35 LA Lakers, you know?
Yeah.
So at that point, the only team that I was stressed about was really the Clippers because everyone else, you know, we're on the older side, especially me and Joel, on the older side of fans. We're like old enough to remember I don't know if Dino, if you remember the Showtime Lakers enough, but you know, it's a long season. And then with LeBron James, especially after his second or during his second ring with Miami Heat, it was like, oh, okay, he's taking it slow. Oh, he's going to turn it up at the second half of the season. So I knew that part, but I was just getting irritated about losing to the Clippers. But otherwise I felt fine because it's like, and I don't know if you guys recall this when I was doing some of the pod solo, I was like, you know what? You can't judge this team yet. You got to wait till the second season or the second part of the season, you know? So to answer the question, I was cool with it, but the harrowing part was really losing to the Clippers because, which we'll talk about and add some more later, it's not the team that I'm irritated with, it's the fans. Right? It's not Beyonce, it's the Bayhive that's annoying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Steve Ballmer being the biggest fan that I'm most irritated with.
Yeah, he's the Queen Hive, right?
Yes.
Fucking bomber. So
let me ask you this quick question,
sure,
Charles, if I can.
Sure.
We know that one of the games was canceled because of the unfortunate death of Kobe Bryant, but would you have felt a little different if they won that game that was on the 28th in the first half of the season?
Meaning the Lakers won?
Yeah, the Lakers-Clippers game that was postponed only because of what happened.
Right, I was just asking if you meant the Clippers winning or the Lakers winning that game.
If the Lakers won.
Okay, then everything that you and I said about like, hey, slow it down, and what Dino said, like, hey, slow it down, relax. If we would have won those two games, then I always thought we were third in line for the championship. Then you know what? We would have been first in line.
There you go.
How do you feel about that, Dino?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Joe.
No.
Basically,
no, Dino. How do you feel about that? Like if we would have won that post Kobe funerary, or it was even pre funerary, but just after Kobe passed.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Like, you know, I'd be a lot happier. With that win, I'm like, okay, everything's cool. Everyone, you know, we could all just relax now, you know, to get that win out the way. Because prior to that, I'm like, oh, they're losing to these teams that, you know, to these really good teams that I always thought that we had a chance of winning the games. And it was these bigger games. So, I mean, if they had won that game, then yeah, I would have felt a lot better.
It sounded like you were going to say something else, Joel, to your question or point.
Well, what I was actually going to add is, okay, so personally, with the Clippers games, game number one, I kind of throw that one out the window. I mean, because both teams were really new and because they didn't know each other. These are two really new teams that only played preseason games together. Okay, the second one did actually, you know, the second one and the Christmas ones did concern me. But what I was going to bring up is if they did win the game on the 28th, which was scheduled on the 28th before the All-Star game, I would have felt better, a lot better. Even if the game was close and they lost, I would have felt a lot better. Because I felt like that was the time the Lakers were kind of starting to round into what they're going to be.
Well, for me, I thought if they won that game, so meaning The Lakers lost 2 and then won 2 in a row. That meant like, oh, we have your number. We were just cooling out. So for me, that places the Lakers in the prime favorite, not a title contender, but the prime favorite. So that's what I was feeling already after you asked the question. So we'll get now to the second part of the season. So we lost to Philly during the first half of the season. We beat Philly. I think even during the first time we played Philly, Embiid and Simmons weren't playing, even on that first game, ironically. We lost to them. And then now we won against them, even though Ben Simmons and Embiid weren't playing. But you know what? There's so many eye rolls that would have been like, well, the Lakers still can't beat them. But I still say, hey, we beat all the East Coast teams that are a threat, and we beat the Clippers. So were you guys, and you know, that 2-point loss to Brooklyn, that was like a trap game. That really was. Yeah. You know, so how were you guys feeling then, outside the theory of what Joe said about like winning against the Clippers, assuming we played against after Kobe passing?
With that closer part of those games, I started to have a lot more confidence in the Lakers. I felt a whole lot better. I felt like the lineups that Bobo was throwing out there, I'm like, yes, we could put these lineups against any squad, and we have a chance every single time now. So I had a lot of confidence in the Lakers around that time.
Joel?
Hello?
Yes. Okay. So the All-Star game was on the 16th. And then let's kind of look at their schedule after that. I was rounding into, I was getting a little confident when they beat Boston on the 23rd. But I have to be honest with you, March is what sold me on the Lakers. Yes. If you look at how they played in March, their first 4 games were against the Pelicans, who, up and coming, Zion, that was a hot team at the moment. And then they beat Philly, Milwaukee, and then the Clippers. Okay? Those 4 games in a row told me, okay, you know what? I think this team can win it all. I really do. Because it just started feeling like the Lakers were starting to round into that role to where they were like, okay, let's get the league a little notice. Let's show them a little bit of what we're all about without showing them everything what we're all about. So they started distributing the ball a little better. I think their lineups were getting a little more solid too, in terms of rotations and whatnot. So that's what happens in the playoffs, right? Rotations tighten up. Their defense got a lot better in March, and I have to tell you, it gave me a huge amount of confidence going into the playoffs until all this pandemic stuff happened. So,
right.
I was hyped.
Right. And let me add to your point, and then I have an extra point for you guys. First, my first point. During that weekend with the Bucks and Clippers, I think we were exchanging texts. I was in 3 text groups. But the topic then was which one should, even in the media with ESPN and Fox, okay, which one loss is more acceptable to the Lakers, right? Because they were thinking like, okay, would it be more acceptable if they lost to the Bucks just so that way they can get to the finals? Because they can beat the Clippers, or if they lost to the Clippers, was it done? They can't even beat the Clippers to get to the conference finals, or if they meet them in the conference finals, to the ultimate finals, right? So at that point, the fact that they beat them both within a span of 3 days, I think it was a Friday, Sunday setup that took place. And the fact that they beat them in 3 days, I was like, okay, that's it. It's done. Like what you said, I personally feel like good job bringing up that date, Joel. That Pelicans game could have been another trap game. Like you could be found watching them, you know? You're just watching the kids develop in front of your eyes and then you're playing them. And the one thing I will say though is the most interesting point about that is when a lot of the announcers were saying, oh, if they lose to the Clippers, that's it. That's it, because they're not going to make it out after the Clippers. And that would have pissed me off even more just hearing that, because I felt like there was some partial truth behind that. But what's interesting, what you said, Joel, that's when Frank Vogel started locking down the 11-man rotation. The point guards were going to be Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo, and then Caruso. That's what the rotation was. It was an 11-man rotation. And we had just gotten Markieff Morris, which I probably sounded like this insane dude. Hey, we should get Markieff Morris. We should get Markieff Morris. Because he's so like under the radar. But I think with having the lineup, if I recall correctly, point guards were Bradley, Rondo, Caruso. And then if Rondo was doing good, Caruso gets a lot less playing time. But if Rondo started playing like shit, then Caruso definitely closed. Then it was Green, KCP, and then we would have waited to see break glass in case of emergency waiters, right? And then it's James Kuzma, Davis Morris, McGee Howard. And that's when I was like, okay, we're doing real well. This is good. So that's a good point on your end.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And did you guys feel LeBron had a stronger case for MVP? Because at that point I was thinking Giannis, but with him injuring his knee against the Lakers, and then LeBron would have been on the uprise, I thought the serious case would have been closer now for LeBron to be considered for MVP. Also depending on how well or if Giannis appealed his body back to MVP form.
Yeah. I think with LeBron, he had, like in college, you have this, these players, they have their Heisman moment where there's this game that they just totally ball out and that puts them ahead of the pack. Like, Cam Newton going for 49-yard run against LSU back in 2010. That solidified his spot as a Heisman. That 3-game stretch with the Lakers where they beat the Sixers, the Bucks, the Clippers, that was LeBron's Heisman moment where he was in the talks prior to that, but with those wins and how LeBron played, that was his Heisman moment where he went ahead of the pack as far as MVP.
Look at you, Dino, with the stats, man. Damn, dude, you guys brought your A game. It's been too long since you guys podcasted, dude. You guys came with your bullets, dude, and your grenades. Nice. But what about you, Joel? I don't know if you could still hear me, if we lost you or not.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
The case for MVP.
I know the case for MVP. I would have to say, I didn't know what the extent of Greek Freak's what the extent of his injury was. But I personally would still have him as a front runner.
Okay.
Only because of one reason, and his name is Anthony Davis. He has another top 5 player on the roster who is also playing, mind you, at an MVP/Defensive Player of the Year level. And only because of that, I'm not saying that Greek Freak is a better player than LeBron this year. I'm just saying, this all depends on what criteria you're using to vote, as to determine MVP. So for that reason, Greek Freak is a lot more valuable to his team than LeBron is to his. But I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm not saying he's a better player. I'm just saying, man, LeBron has a monster named Anthony Davis by his side. And I love having that problem. And on top of that, I was actually, call me crazy, I was actually wishing LeBron would not win the MVP. And that everybody kept talking about Greek Freak being the MVP just to give LeBron a little more motivation going into the playoffs to show him up. A la Hakeem Olajuwon.
Right.
So That's where I stand on this issue. I did not want him to win it. I do not want LeBron James to win because it seemed like even Kobe, who only had one, seemed really motivated when Nash won it over him. You know, when these players, they get motivated by little things when their peers are. You know, it starts when they get drafted. They get mad at everybody who gets drafted before them. You know, they make it a mission to show up the teams that don't draft them. You know, when their peers are perceived to be better than them, you know, these NBA players are the alpha males of alpha males. They're going to take issue with it and just, you know, run with it. And I believe LeBron is like that. So I was actually hoping that Greek Freak would end up winning it anyways. But like I said, I don't think LeBron was going to win it anyways, only because of Anthony Davis being on the same team.
Dino, can I jump in real quick, or did you have something immediate to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so my perspective, and again, for you who's listening, I don't want this to be like Stephen A, and we're just berating each other. So Joel's perspective is Joel's perspective. My perspective is my perspective, right?
Yes.
So the other side of the ear, who may be on my side, let me first say, Giannis deserved the MVP for this year. But it's hard to tell because God knows what happens with his knee, right? Because for you to suffer a knee injury that bad and for you to recover that fast, God knows what and how you're going to be performing because he's a power-based player, right? But still, gun to my head, you give the MVP to Giannis. So let me preface it with that first. Okay. But the case I have is pretty much, you know, this Lakers team is not good without LeBron. LeBron has a very interesting stat where at that time, I don't remember if it was 28-0, 29-0, or 30-0 when LeBron scores 30 plus. Also, with his old age, I feel like there's also LeBron fatigue. So it's not like people will want him to win MVP anyways, if that makes sense. And then the one thing that makes him an MVP, I thought, a very unique MVP, is he was starting to add like this low post isolation play. And then it would be an low post ISO drive to the basket, low post ISO fadeaway. And then I felt like, oh, you're adding something into the season to get towards the championship. That's only my perspective. You know what I'm saying? Because with Giannis is power centric. It's power based. And to be honest with you, he's still developing the three, so you can't count on him on that. And the way we defeated Giannis in the Bucks was a funneling. Now, to add to your point, there wasn't fucking Chris Middleton sometimes fucking mouses in big moments. You saw that during the playoffs last year. Chris Middleton ain't shit. He's great for the regular season, but he mouses at big moments. And we do have AD. And the one thing I thought what AD was doing, it was both the coaching and AD were learning how to play with LeBron. It was like, okay, it's my turn. Yeah. It was like so dope to watch, dude. I don't know how you felt about that, Dino. Are you still Giannis?
You cut out. You cut out. What was that?
Are you still pro Giannis, or would you say?
Oh, no, I'm pro LeBron.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pro LeBron.
Yeah, because I just think there's something about, not to talk about fighting and make it parallel to this, but like when John Jones fucks around for 3 rounds, and then you see him ramp up on 4th and 5th, and people will say, "Well, they lost the first 3 rounds." What's that?
Yeah, no, where he just starts turning it up. Sorry.
Right, because he lost the first 3 rounds because he's a cokehead son of a bitch who doesn't give a fuck. And then when round 4 and 5 goes, oh, the other opponent can't do anything. And that's where he gets the benefit, that's where I thought the Lakers were doing. Like what Joel said, it's like the rotations were down. It was an 11-man rotation. No one was getting extremely tired except for LeBron, right? And then it was amazing to see LeBron do that turnaround jump shot. And I don't know if you guys agree with this. I thought LeBron, when he's open, and if it's a straight up jump shot, like up and down vertical, he's not good with that. He's better with like a fadeaway or a pressure. When it's like 18 feet and under.
Oh, yeah, definitely. What even makes it more dangerous in that either triple threat or backing down position, I mean, the one thing we haven't discussed yet is, man, the guy is leading at the time, he's leading the league in assists over guys like
Great one.
Rick Rubio and Luka Doncic. So when LeBron backs down, it's not only his shot that is the threat. He is one of the best post-game passers and triple threat passers I have ever seen. His court vision is off the charts. It's ridiculous, and that's why maybe there is a learning curve. There's a learning curve to playing with him, and like you said, Anthony Davis is rounding out into learning how to play with that aspect of LeBron James. It's almost like how all those players in the 80s learned how to play with Magic, where you had to have your hands up basically the whole time on the offensive side of the court, or else you're going to get hit in the face, right? So
yeah,
it was beautiful. I mean, how awesome were all those little, even with other players, but all those alley-oops to AD. I mean, they were just unstoppable. And I don't know how. I mean, they didn't even see it coming, So, yeah, the threat of LeBron, in that little mid-range is ridiculous. He's the most dangerous player, within the 3-point range of the court with the ball in his hand, no matter if he scores on possession or not. So,
well,
maybe I'm convincing myself to agree with Dino now.
Yeah, because I personally feel, because we don't have any concrete evidence because we're locked down, right? So, I think Dino has a point. I think I may have just been playing safer because I don't know what's going to happen to Giannis. But to both your points, dude, and keep in mind, I am a Jordan Magic guy. I'm not even a Kobeite because I'm 44, so I'm way too old to be like this younger generation that all they know is Kobe, right? So for me, like watching LeBron, to add to both of your points, it's like, wait, at first he was Magic, now he's on the low post, and I'm envisioning this guy in the fucking triangle. It's like he's playing the Shaq role because he's big and heavy for his size, right?
Yeah.
So him at the low post, there's like he's big and heavy like Shaq, but he's gonna do the Jordan fucking triangle fucking turnaround. Do you guys feel this season is what should we do with this season? Oh, wait. You know what? Excuse me, forget that first. Do you guys think the coaching staff had improved and found a synchronicity in coaching this team already? Like they were better coaching the second half? And we're treating the first half like, okay, we'll throw in this ingredient, and we'll throw in this ingredient. Okay, now second half we'll throw away this ingredient, and now we know our stuff.
Yeah, I felt like they did get better once they did, like you guys mentioned, tighten up that rotation, they started letting other players loose. Like, I mean, one of them that I see is Avery Bradley. I mean, they let him loose. He was getting his shots. He's getting way more shots.
Great point.
Towards All-Star break, and he was playing like a beast. And I think that was due to, the coaching staff, opening things up for the other players. They saw that what Avery could do, and they opened it up for him. So, yeah.
When I look at this coaching staff, I see one thing with LeBron that I've never seen him have at any other place that he's played or for any other coach that he's played. They talk all the time. The lines of communication are open. So in seeing that, I believe he is talking to the coaches a lot more. So that first half, I don't think it's the fact that the coaches are improving. I think what this whole plan was almost by design to where I'm not going to say they didn't care about wins, but they really did take their time and did their homework in terms of learning what this roster is all about. So, I mean, damn the result, right? Let's find out what we're all about. And then when we do, let's unleash it. And maybe they're working on it to where they time that to where it happens later on or even in March, going towards the playoffs. What that requires, and what I do know about basketball, what that requires is heavy communication and heavy chemistry between the players and the coaches as a whole. So, props to the Lakers in putting together this roster, who has a bunch of coaches and experience on the roster as well, and the coaching staff, who seems to have a great mix of experience and what they want to do, because it seems like the whole thing is working together as one unit. And I think, just like everything out there, sometimes it takes time to put it together, but man, what the payoff in the end is what they're going for. And that's what we were poised to see at the end of this year. So, I do believe, I'll throw this in there too, I think Vogel was on his way to a Coach of the Year award. And the one question I had with, Jason Kidd being on the roster, on the coaching staff, I was wondering if he was just going to be looking over his shoulder the whole time, or if they're going to mesh and actually really coach his team. And I'm so glad that it feels like the latter has happened. So I don't think they improved. I think they're just doing a great job at this point.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people forget, including myself, in the very beginning, it was looking really dark for the Lakers because the free agency, Kawhi Leonard signed with the Clippers. So now we have to scramble for a coaching staff. At first, initially, everyone was, I won't include you guys because I don't remember. It was like Ty Lue, right? We should get Ty Lue. Uh-huh. And then Monty Williams. And then they both spurned us, and that Ty Lue piece of shit decided to join the Clippers. Right? So at that point, I was like, Frank Vogel? Why him? And then all of a sudden I saw Lionel Hollins. I'm like, okay, Jason Kidd. Okay. And then by the time it got from Frank Vogel to Lionel Hollins, I was really happy. But when it got to Jason Kidd, then what Joel said, it's like, oh, is he just standing by, washing his hands, waiting to step up after season 1? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But now it's starting to look like this is the triumvirate coaching staff. It's almost like when Tibbs was with the Celtics still. It felt like they have offense and defense. That's why they beat the Lakers. But really, it's because Bynum wasn't playing. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I was still, that was also lingering in the back of my mind. I was like, okay. But then the Lakers were playing really great in the beginning of the season. But it goes to show for unpredictability because at the start of the season, KCP, we were all like, fuck KCP. God, why did we sign this guy? Right?
Oh, yeah, I was big time on that.
We were all big time into that. We were all big time into that. And then Rondo was actually playing decent. Mm-hmm. And then it went to that spell where Rondo was have his retired Rondo games, and then now he had a couple of decent games towards the second half of the season, which is brilliant. When he wasn't playing good, Caruso would definitely finish the fourth. Mm-hmm. But if he was playing well, you let the vet roll.
Yeah.
So those are both really good points on your end. So there's the 2020 Hall of Fame class, right? Which is primarily comprised of KG, like the breadwinners of it, right? It's KG, Tim Duncan, and Kobe Bryant, which I think the NBA or the Laker fans would riot if Kobe wasn't included into that Hall of Fame class. But to me, I mean, it was pretty inevitable about that. So there was an interesting audio piece from ESPN where they did a comparison between Kobe Bryant versus Tim Duncan. Now, before Dino, before you read out the stats, let's do roundtable, and I'll start. Who is the better Hall of Famer? I'm gonna be very Hillary and Obama here, guys. I'm gonna be fucking a piece of shit. It depends on what style you like. That's what my answer is.
Yeah.
If you're into Roy Jones Jr., if you're into Mike Tyson, Manny Pacquiao, very flashy, boom, you're gonna say Bryant. But there's the Klitschko fans. There's the defensive Floyd Mayweather counterattackers, and you may say Duncan. Though the personality wise, definitely Floyd is flash, right? So my answer to that is it just depends on what you like. If you're irritated with like braggadocio, you're going to say Duncan, even though you think Kobe's amazing. You know what I'm saying? But if you want something consistent and with the same amount of titles spread out versus repeats, then, you're going to prefer Duncan. So why don't you guys just give a quick answer first? Which side are you at? If I had to choose, okay, I would prefer the spread out. But I'm also gonna punch myself in the mouth after I say that because I have a good counter to that point. So for me, I feel like Tim Duncan is the nullifier to why Kobe can't be considered the GOAT. And if I had to choose gun to my head, I'd still say Kobe because I'm a Laker fan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for you guys, which one? Let's start with you, Deans. Which one? Who do you think had the better career? Before we go through the stats.
It's a hard one, but if I had to choose, I'd go with Kobe.
Joel.
And
sorry. Oh, go ahead, Dino. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, go.
For me, okay, we're talking on-court career. I'd probably go with Duncan. Strictly on-court career. So.
Okay.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't mean it. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to cut you off. Joel, go ahead.
Sure, no, go ahead.
It's Duncan. Okay, all right. So, Dino, let's start. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stats that ESPN chose, right? So let's start with the first line.
All right, so first line, we have titles, Kobe with 5 and Duncan with 5.
Okay, so here's the thing. Kobe had 3 in a row, which is a difficult feat. Kobe had a repeat. Duncan can't repeat at all. It's like a one and done couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. Die another season. Here's another one. Is it just safe to say that that's just equal and according to taste, like I prefaced it earlier in person?
Sorry, what was that? You cut off.
Sorry. Is the 5 titles that has a repeat and a three-peat better than a spread out through a decade?
I would say yes. I would say definitely yes. It is hard to repeat. You have a target on your back for a good 2-3 years. Okay. I know it sounds like I'm going against my point.
I did with mine.
Okay. But Kobe, he did have a three-peat with Shaq. Shaq is ridiculous. I mean, he was the MVP of those first 3 teams. He led the team, those first 3. I'm not saying Kobe, Shaq would have won without Kobe because that's not going to happen either. But Shaq was the peak of what we experienced of Shaq in LA, and he was just scary. He was the scariest guy on the court. He really was. So, but the repeating definitely is way harder than winning, one and then a couple years later or a year later, a couple years later winning another one, a couple years later winning another one, winning one with an asterisk, and Oh wait, did I say that? I'm sorry, but but yeah, that is definitely, in terms of repeating, that is definitely harder to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. Winning the 3P is definitely harder, so I side with Kobe on that.
And the three-peat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 in a row, dude. Come on. But before I hop on, because we're parallel-minded here, before we discuss the Kobe Shaq era, I'm going to play a Spur fan. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to go, yeah, but Kobe had to go through miserable years. We were always in the playoffs. And we always had to, for sure, we're going to get a ring once every 3 years, which isn't a long wait. I disagree with that, but I'm just playing devil's advocate because we all three of us agree at this point. So I'm trying to add another perspective for the listener. So what do you guys have to say to that? Maybe it's even better for the economy of the Spurs versus the Lakers. But let's just say the Lakers are always going to be hot even during the Nick Young years, right? But we're the Spurs, so that's how we have to combat things. So what do you guys have to say about that? Still the same, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's take the two different cities. I mean, we're talking about San Antonio and LA. LA is like all about flash and everything. And, Hollywood is like you're a flash in the pan. You're hot right now. San Antonio, it's like they're a little slower there. I have a friend that lives there, and that consistency kind of showed in their team. I mean, Popovich had a great system until he lost Duncan. So, because it seemed like he did. Isn't he the GM over there, if I'm not mistaken? But he kept building the teams around Duncan. And to me, that almost lends to my argument that on court, Duncan probably had the better career. Kobe championship teams were at least 3 of them weren't really built around Kobe, right? So with Duncan, maybe 3 or 4 of them were. Because he had Robinson at one point, I think, for one of them, right?
Yeah, he had David Robinson for 2, I think. The 99 season and his retirement season.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
But then I also feel that at one point, the offense, it was running through Tony Parker and Manu.
Yes.
You're right.
And Duncan was the third option.
Yeah, because
that team.
Sorry, let's let Dino finish this point. I think me and Joel cut you off.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, so at one point, I mean, that offense, for a couple of years, that was Tony Parker's offense. Next up, and then Manu was right there, and then Duncan.
Yeah, and I think what's also critical about that is, LA is an explosion. It's like, yo, man, 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what you care, but we're gonna be in the dumps. But when we win, it's like fireworks. Okay, we're gonna intimidate you. You're not gonna win against us for at least 2-3 years. Okay, so that's just our style. So that's my refute to me playing Charlie Spur over there for a little bit. But I had this in my notes during the Shaq Kobe era. When was Kobe 1A, if he ever was? Because I feel like Shaq, at the most that I would give Kobe is the 3rd year as equal. But Kobe, I don't think Kobe was the main guy even in the 3rd year. I thought 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year, it was still Shaq. The only arguable part is maybe Kobe was equal. Because the system ran through Shaq, and Shaq was a monster. And you know what? He was a bulldozer that you can't stop. Even though if he's going 5 miles an hour, you can't stop the bulldozer. And then there's a reason why he won all 3 championship MVP rings. Mm-hmm. Right? So how do you guys feel about that? Like the division of how much Kobe was the second? I'm thinking first 2 for sure, it's Shaq. And then but though I feel Shaq was still the lead, because you look at those New Jersey Nets numbers, Shaq was still the lead for all three of those.
Well, like you said, there was a reason he won MVP, Finals MVP, all three of those years. And Kobe was a great piece in that. I would have to say, if we had to put a percentage there, I mean, it's close to it. Like if one person was like 100% of what would win the finals, I mean, it was close to a 60-40, 70-30. I mean, no more than 70-30 between the two. But I do agree with you. It was mainly Shaq, just because there was nobody in the whole league that can guard him. Maybe with Kobe, you could kind of slow him down. I remember the first final. Was it the Indiana? Remember Game 4? He took over in overtime.
Shaq fouled out,
right? Yeah, but people forget Games 2 or 3. Kobe was like nowhere. He had an ankle injury or something. And
yes.
He missed most of Game 2. And, he didn't play Game 3, from what I remember.
Right.
But so it's like, I mean, you're right. Where do we say that Kobe became the focal point of what the Lakers are trying to accomplish? And it's not necessarily that, he was a bad player. Or, I mean, he was not a great player. He was just a great player on a slightly greater, a team with a slightly greater player. So, but he wasn't the focus, obviously, because he wasn't 7 foot and 300 pounds. So,
and could pass.
And could pass. Yeah.
Dean's, anything to add to that?
I mean,
or Joel, if you still had something to say, Joel.
Yeah, it's almost like the whole thing with Jordan and Pippen. I mean, Jordan was 10. I mean, of course, Jordan is the GOAT. But we'll always say, I mean, personally, I don't think he would have won one without Pippen. But the cool thing about what Pippen is that it feels like Jordan created Pippen for his purpose. You know what I mean? With Kobe and Shaq, it was a little different. It's almost like they were like these two, I guess, forces that were pulling on each other and creating a little tension that caused explosions at times that were good, So I feel it was a little different dynamic with them as opposed to Kobe as opposed to Jordan and Pippen. So,
do you know anything to add?
It's almost.
Oh, sorry.
It's almost the same thing. Those two are going to go hand in hand, and those two aren't winning championships without each other. There's no way.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. Dino, so if you don't mind reading the rest of the list.
All right, sure. So All-Star appearances, Kobe has 18, Duncan has 15. NBA MVPs, Kobe has 1, Duncan has 2. Finals MVPs, Kobe has 2, and Duncan has 3. And all NBA teams, both are tied at 15 each. Okay.
The one thing about the stat where Kobe has 18 All-Stars and Duncan has 15, Duncan was heavily responsible for being a cog in the 99 championships. And here, let me do some research. Do you guys know top of the head when Duncan was drafted? Let me look it up. Tim Duncan drafted.
When? It was the 97-98 season.
Yeah, to be nice one, Dean's really quick. And they won in 99. So within 2 years, he's an immediate cog and reason for that championship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for me, I don't buy the All-Star line. I just don't give too much credence behind that. We discussed the Finals MVP 3 versus 2. Don't you guys think Powell deserves a little bit of recognition? Because I felt like after watching those Finals games, they were pretty much tied against the 2010 Boston Celtics, and then Game 7. I mean, Powell was pretty much the most consistent one.
Yes.
I thought there
Yes,
was like
he was.
bias towards Powell. I mean, bias towards Kobe, but I thought Powell was the MVP for that finals.
I don't, looking back, I know Powell was consistent, but to bring up the fact that you're talking about being a cog and the guy turning the wheels, that I distinctly kind of remembering that Kobe was the guy in that finals. Kind of just, I know Powell was really consistent, and I'll be the first guy to say that the Lakers they weren't winning anything without him. I mean, honestly, they made the finals when they tried to put him. But I love me some Powell, but I'd probably have to rewatch the finals to make a more educated decision on that.
What are your thoughts, Dean? And again, I'm running against like memory and an eyeball test. Okay, what are your thoughts, Dino? Is it still Kobe deserving of that second finals MVP?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to. I definitely do think that Powell has been underrated when he was with the Lakers, but I'm trying to remember that playoff. I'd have to look back as well.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude.
Yeah,
I was watching that game 7, at a Las Vegas hotel room. I couldn't have any fun until that game was done, right? And I always feel like that stat is... People are going to think I'm a Kobe hater now. Here we go. I always feel like Kobe's shooting percentages was so bad. And then Laker fans would or Kobe fans would be like, you know what? But look at his rebounds. Well, it's interesting that they bring that up because if you watch those rebounds, about 3 of those he grabbed away from Lamar Odom when Lamar was about to jump. That's first of all. And then second of all, Powell out-rebounded him. And then as far as for points scored, Artest and Powell were at the same level of Kobe scoring with better percentages. And honestly, Kobe did enough to almost fuck up that finals. Imagine if we lose that one game, that's it. Kobe is stuck at 4 rings. Shaq has 4 rings. And now Tim would be elevated into the GOAT of that era. I don't know. I sound like a Kobe hater.
Well, we're talking about, okay, so this is the game they replayed on TV a few days back, right?
Sure. Maybe even a week and a half ago.
Okay. So I was watching that game, and I was, okay, now that you bring it up, it does come to me. And this is Game 7, obviously. I have to say, that was a really, really badly played game on both sides.
Yep.
But it's not because they were bad teams. To me, that was a great thing because it really felt like that series is one of the best series I've ever seen. You look at all the scores. Nobody scored over 100 the whole series. As a matter of fact, I think I'm looking at it right now. The Celtics were held at 67 points for Game 6. These teams really got in each other's head. So it really felt like they actually hated each other, and they were each playing off of that, and they were each being psychologically coached to do that to each other. And it really felt like it affected everyone's game. It was like if you play in a pickup game and you see one guy, he's just getting mad and he just starts storing up shots and he's missing them. It's like both teams are doing that.
Yeah.
And it was pretty crazy to watch that. So to me, that made for a whole bunch of drama in that series, and it was pretty damn awesome. And I remember now, being on the seat of my pants and just like, oh my gosh, I was clenching my fist the whole time, just mad. I felt like I was on the court. And honestly, if I was playing, I probably would have missed all my damn shots too.
Right.
Which explains why they each got so many rebounds, right?
I mean, literally that Game 7, it took everyone to win also, right? Like Sasha, cold, off the bench, dude. Make these 2 free throws. It's only the game.
Yeah.
Artest had the worst fucking triangle rhythm I've ever seen ever. you know, and then I just live in the moment, it felt like Kobe was fucking it up. Just to be honest with you, like he couldn't handle the moment, like it was too big, and it took his which it's his team sport, but it just felt like, dude, you are being nominated as the GOAT, dude. Where are you? Where with Jordan? It's like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna push fucking Byron Russell off, and I'm gonna be really confident that the way I push Byron Russell off, I'm gonna push this motherfucker off. So I'm gonna get this last shot, and I'm gonna fucking fuck all these Utes, the Utah Jazz fans in the mouth. Okay, where with Kobe, as hardcore as he was, it just felt like his shooting was so nervous. It looked like nervous shooting, dude. I don't know. Because then I was overthinking.
Nervous or mad?
What's that?
Nervous or mad?
A lot of it looked nervous because, you know, that scowl almost has a guise, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm pissed off, but I'm fucking up.
Or dare we say it, maybe he was shook a little, just like everybody else on the court.
I don't know, dude, because when Pat went for those critical plays, and yeah, I'm gonna come off as hated here. You know that's why, like, the Shaq. Okay, go back to boxing. Like the Shaq, Kobe era was like Mike Tyson. Is boom, you're knocked out. If you look at the finals records, it was like 4-2, 4-1, 4-0, right? And in this case with like Powell, it was almost like Roy Jones Jr. You know, it's just I can get you multiple different ways, but I'm gonna box your face. I'm not really gonna knock you out that well. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but I just felt like maybe I'm overthinking the Game 7 aspect, but I felt like Game 7 was enough for me to say, you know what, pal, you deserve consideration for the Finals MVP. But it wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like with Lonzo Ball. We're going to draft you, though, and credit to Zach for bringing this up during that time, former co-host. He was like, what about Jason Tatum? I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, and fucking Kyle Kuzma. And that way we can trade for any of them. And let's say we pulled off this AD trade. Guess what? We get to keep one of them, or if not, keep all the draft picks. Here, take Tatum, take Kuzma. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's... Sorry, guys. I just rambled and became too passionate about fucking giving power. Motherfucking... You know, but...
It's valid. It's definitely valid. You know?
Yeah, so just to wrap things up, Kobe had the better career for Dino and I, and then Duncan for you, right, Joel?
On court. Overall career and what he's done, I mean, head and shoulders, Kobe's above Powell. Kobe's above Duncan, head and shoulders.
What constitutes off court?
Well, not necessarily on court, but his influence on what the game is. How many people are, even before, he unfortunately passed, how many people were kind of adopting a Kobe mentality? There's actually even a funny thing I looked up, being a shoe guy, the Kobe 4 is still the most popular signature shoe in the NBA as of this year. So, and what he's done for other players, apparently he's never refused a call from players, no matter if you're a rookie, if you're a college player, he's that kind of guy. That's what his influence was. His influence went far beyond what he was on the court. And he almost epitomizes you look at what Tim Duncan had to come from, number one pick, right? He was number one pick, Wake Forest. He was already touted, right? Kobe had to fight for what he ended up getting, which to me says a lot. And to me, that's almost it's a lot more relatable, and it allows for you to have much more of an influence on people in general and on your peers, because you're not only are you respecting where you're coming from, you're respecting where you're at, and other players see that in you. I'm not saying Tim Duncan didn't do that, but Tim Duncan, although to me, he had the better career on the court, I mean, Popovich was there to hold his hand. I mean, and then he had the general kind of, pushing him into his role that he was going to eventually take. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a different kind of career path.
I think it's the same thing with Kobe in regards to the coach, because, you had like a really admired, revered coach, and you had Shaq, who also was a good mentor. But you and I just did our Obama-Hillary 50-50 answer. Dino, you're the winner for this one because you just said Kobe.
Yes.
I totally fucking chicken dicked out earlier, and now Joel just gave his Hillary answer right there, dude.
But you know what, too? It was because what solidified it for me as far as going with Kobe, because for me it was dead even. But I mean, on what was it, First Take, when I was listening to Stephen A. and them, Stephen A. mentioned something about Duncan being better than Kobe in playoffs. And so I went ahead and looked into it. He said that, come playoff time, Duncan actually got better than Kobe. But I looked into those stats, and if you look at the playoffs throughout their career, Kobe, was balling out, and it's like he peaked and then that was it. Whereas Duncan, his stats, they gradually went down in the later years of his career. And so it's just those playoff numbers. That's what really, that's what put it over the top for me.
That'll be it for this episode. Thanks to Dino and Joel for the great input. And signing off from Beat Junkie Radio.